The drama surrounding the Indiana Fever this season isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about control, ego, and the fragile balance between leadership and superstardom. Something reportedly snapped inside the Fever's practice facility last week. It wasn't about missed shots, blown assignments, or even another loss on the stat sheet. It was about power. For months, tension had been building between head coach Stephanie White and the team's rookie phenom Caitlin Clark. But during one fateful practice, that quiet friction finally erupted into something that shook the foundation of the entire organization. According to insiders close to the team, what started as an ordinary midweek session turned into a heated verbal exchange that left everyone in stunned silence. There were no punches thrown, no physical altercation, just raised voices echoing off the gym walls. But one phrase stood out above all the noise: "I'm still the coach here." Those 5 words, shouted by Stephanie White, carried more weight than any post-game press conference ever could. Because in that moment, it was clear something inside the Indiana Fever had fractured. When Caitlin Clark was drafted number 1 overall, it felt like destiny. On paper, the pairing of Clark and White seemed perfect. Clark, the record-breaking college sensation with unlimited range and ice in her veins, was supposed to be the missing piece. Stephanie White, a seasoned leader known for her composure and ability to mold young talent, appeared to be the ideal mentor. White publicly praised Clark's competitiveness and leadership instincts, calling her a once-in-a-generation player. Clark, in turn, credited White for giving her the freedom to play her game and trust her instincts. It all looked harmonious until the spotlight got too bright, because success changes everything. The moment Caitlin Clark stepped into the WNBA, the Fever stopped being just a basketball team and became a brand. Suddenly, every move Clark made was televised, analyzed, and monetized. The Fever's once quiet practice gym turned into a revolving door of cameras, reporters, and PR executives. Marketing departments began reviewing practice clips for viral potential. Players had to shift media schedules to make room for Clark's sponsorship deals. And through it all, Stephanie White watched her control slowly slip away. To the outside world, it was still about basketball. But behind closed doors, it was about influence. As Clark's fame skyrocketed, the balance of authority began to tilt. White's system, built on discipline, structure, and accountability, started to clash with the chaos of celebrity. The coach who once commanded the room now found herself competing with her own player for attention and control. According to one insider, it's not that Caitlin disrespects White, it's that her power outside the gym naturally bleeds into what happens inside it. Then came the practice that changed everything. The Fever were coming off a frustrating loss, and White wanted to regroup, slow things down, and focus on defense. Clark, riding her rhythm, wanted to speed things up. When White stopped a drill to make corrections, Clark reportedly called out her own adjustments, taking control of the next play. That's when White, clipboard in hand, slammed it against the floor and shouted, "Enough! I'm still the coach." The gym fell silent. Players froze mid-step. Assistant coaches stopped moving. It wasn't just another disagreement. It was a power struggle playing out in real time. Clark didn't shout back. She just stared for a moment, nodded, and walked toward the sideline. Practice ended minutes later, but the echoes of that confrontation lingered long after the final whistle. Everyone in that gym knew something had changed. Later that day, the team held a closed-door meeting. White tried to rally the group, urging everyone to stay united. Clark stayed quiet, letting veterans like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston speak their minds. Some players voiced frustration about the growing distractions, the media circus, the non-stop coverage, the way every practice moment seemed to end up online. That night, a few players reportedly went out together without Clark, not as an act of exclusion, but as a way to breathe, to escape the tension. Meanwhile, Clark's PR team and management reportedly reached out to Fever executives, worried the story would leak. They were right to be concerned. Within 2 days, word spread among reporters that something major had happened behind closed doors. When that headline hit social media, it was like gasoline on a fire. Fans began speculating whether Stephanie White had lost the locker room or if Clark had grown too big for her own coach. Then came the real power move, from the top. Team owner Steve Simon, the man who had invested millions into turning Caitlin Clark into the face of the franchise, called an emergency meeting with executives and PR staff. His message was clear: contain the story before it explodes. But privately, sources say, Simon wasn't just thinking about PR. He was weighing something far bigger: loyalty versus leverage. Stephanie White had built the foundation of the Fever's culture, but Caitlin Clark was the reason the world was watching. The question wasn't who was right, it was who mattered more. And that's when the Fever's identity crisis became impossible to ignore. Inside the locker room, two camps quietly formed. On one side were the veterans and traditionalists, backing White's structured team-first approach. On the other side were those who saw Clark's confidence and intensity as the future of the league. As one player reportedly said, "It's not about who's right. It's about who the franchise listens to." That one sentence, once leaked online, told fans everything they needed to know. The Fever weren't just fighting for wins. They were fighting for control. Publicly, everyone kept up appearances. White smiled in interviews, praising Clark's competitiveness. Clark echoed the same sentiment, saying White pushed her to be better. But to anyone paying attention, the chemistry looked off. Their sideline exchanges seemed colder. White's post-game tone felt subdued. The celebratory hugs between coach and player, once a routine sight, disappeared. They were united in public only because they had to be. Meanwhile, insiders debated who leaked the story in the first place. Some believed it came from White's camp, frustrated by Clark's growing dominance. Others thought Clark's team leaked it strategically to spin the story, to frame it as a competitive exchange rather than a confrontation. Either way, the result was the same. The internet erupted. Fans took sides, arguing endlessly about respect, leadership, and ego. And while the noise swirled online, Fever management quietly shifted focus to marketing and ticket sales, burying the story under highlight reels and community events. Because in modern sports PR, the rule is simple. If you can't silence the storm, distract from it. But this saga isn't just about Indiana. It's a reflection of a larger transformation happening across the entire WNBA. The league is now powered by media-driven stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Juju Watkins, players who command global attention and shift financial tides with every appearance. They don't just play, they influence. They bring sponsors, ratings, and relevance that the league desperately needs. Yet that power comes at a cost. Stephanie White represents the old guard: discipline, structure, and respect for the system. Caitlin Clark represents the new era: freedom, flair, and brand-driven dominance. Their clash wasn't personal. It was philosophical. It's the collision between tradition and transformation. And every coach, owner, and executive in the WNBA is watching closely, because how the Fever handle this tension will set the standard for the future. Reports say that things have cooled down since that explosive day. Practices are quieter, more controlled. Clark continues to put up elite numbers, breaking records with ease, while White maintains her poise on the sidelines. But even now, beneath the surface, the tension simmers. There's a professional calm between them, but not necessarily peace. Steve Simon now stands at a crossroads. If he sides too much with Clark, he risks losing the locker room's respect. If he backs White too firmly, he risks alienating the most marketable player in league history. It's a no-win situation unless trust can be rebuilt, a kind of trust that no press release or PR campaign can restore. Because at its core, this isn't just about a shouting match in practice. It's about the evolution of power in women's basketball. Once upon a time, coaches were the unquestioned leaders. Now, in the age of viral stars and million-dollar sponsorships, influence doesn't come from a whistle. It comes from followers, camera flashes, and brand deals. And for the Indiana Fever, that shift has turned one practice confrontation into a defining moment for an entire franchise. The question now is simple: can they coexist long enough to win? Or will this silent power struggle define the Caitlin Clark era before it even truly begins? So what do you think? Did Stephanie White overstep as a coach trying to maintain authority? Or is Caitlin Clark's growing influence impossible to contain? Can a superstar and a strong coach truly share control in today's WNBA? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the stories shaping the game we love.